Hey everybody, today we are going to be learning about how to really amplify your melodies by using scales, modes, and keys. So in the last lesson, we touched on finding the scale that some of these melodies that you may have hummed or put together were in. Well, now we're going to start taking those melodies and experimenting with them. So if you haven't watched that video, you can find it here. And also, if you aren't a part of this class, I have a link in the description that will get you started on how to take this free course I have online that even if you know nothing about music theory or music at all, like you don't even have to have touched an instrument, I can take you from no music experience to composing a full orchestra. So let's get started. All right, quick recap. What is a scale? Again, in the last video, we defined scales as simply a collection of notes, and they're made of a tonic, which is a starting note, and an interval, which is the space between notes. So you may recognize this. Again, it's in the previous video, but basically, we took a starting note in this instance, it's C, and then we have an interval structure, which is a whole step, a half step, followed by 3 whole steps in a row, and then another half step. And so by moving this back and forth, right, if we put the tonic on E, we have E major. We move it to F sharp, we have F sharp major. And if we move it to C, we have C major. Awesome. Well, then, you know what a scale is? What's a mode? Well, a mode is a collection of notes from a scale, but they start on different scale degrees. So what is a scale degree? Scale degrees are just the position of a note relative to the tonic. So if the tonic, i.e. in this case, right, our tonic is C, well, C is 1. And the note after the tonic, in this case, D is 2. And the note after that is 3. And F would be the 4th scale degree, and G would be the 5th scale degree, right? If we move this to, say, D sharp major, D sharp is the tonic, therefore D sharp is 1. F is 2, G is 3, so on and so forth. Here we go. I showed it again. C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7, and then C is back to 1. But here's where modes come into play. What if we started instead on C, which is 1, what if we made D the tonic? So what if we started on 2? Well, you shift everything over. So the tonic shifts over to D, including this interval here, right? Because since we're moving over, that first whole step gets moved to the end. So now you have, instead of whole step, half step, whole step, half step, you now have whole step, half step, whole, half, whole. And this is called the Dorian mode. So as you can see, even with these 2 structures here, you can see that all this is, everything is the same. It's just shifted over by 1. Everything lines up. And so you'll notice that C major, which is also known as C Ionian, by the way, that's the mode name for it. And D Dorian, well, they have the same notes. And so these are what are called relative modes. Relative modes just share the same notes. So C Ionian is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. D Dorian is D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. E Phrygian, which is the 3rd mode, Phrygian, is E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. F Lydian, so Lydian is the 4th one. 4th mode is F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. G Mixolydian, which is the 5th mode, Mixolydian, is G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A Aeolian, which is the 6th mode, and is also known as the minor scale, by the way, is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And then B Locrian, which is the 7th mode, is B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then back to B. And you can see, look, the intervalk structures are the same, right? They're all the same. They're just shifted over by 1. So because of this, C Ionian, D Dorian, E Phrygian, F Lydian, G Mixolydian, A Aeolian, B Locrian all have the same notes, therefore making them relative modes. So as I just mentioned, the major and minor scales I showed you earlier, check this out. They're relative modes of each other. So here's our major scale, our Ionian, and I'll just make this we'll do C major, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then here's the Aeolian mode, or also known as the minor scale. Well, we know that Aeolian, going back, is the 6th one, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Aeolian. So if I take this and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, start on A, now I'm just gonna move this back to lower A so you can see how it overlaps better, but look at that. Everything lines up. It's the same notes, just in a different order. Cool. Well, what happens then if instead of, like, you wanna make the tonic the same, so everything is C? Well, this is when you start getting into parallel modes. So, right, before everything was staggered, boom. Now what I'm doing is, to make a parallel mode, I take all this and I push it back to make sure that this first whole step also starts on C. And the Phrygian's first, note before the half step also starts on E. And the Lydian's first whole step, that first note before that starts on F, or starts on C as well, so on and so forth. So now you have parallel modes. And so C Ionian, which is our major, is still C, D, E, F, G, A, B. C Dorian is C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, because everything shifted over. And the Phrygian, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat. C Lydian, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. C Mixolydian, C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat. C Aeolian, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat. And then finally C Locrian is C, D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, right? So before, I was able to take those, like these two modes, the Ionian and the Aeolian, the major and minor scales. Now I'm going to take the Ionian and the Aeolian, or the Dorian in this time. Sorry, I should use the same example. You can see, whoa, they actually don't line up, because now they're sharing the same tonic, and so things are a little bit different, right? The C major, the red one, has B and it has E, but the C Dorian doesn't have E or B. It has E flat and it has B flat, marked by green. This is another chart. I won't go super into it, but like if you want to turn Ionian into another mode really quickly, you just have to know which notes to sharp or flat. So if you want to go Ionian to Ionian, nothing happens. Ionian to Dorian, you flat the 3rd scale degree and you flat the 7th scale degree. From Phrygian, so Ionian to Phrygian, you flat the 2nd, flat the 3rd, flat the 6th, flat the 7th. From Ionian to Lydian, you sharp the 4th. From Ionian to Mixolydian, you flat the 7th. From Ionian to Aeolian, you flat the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th. And from Ionian to Locrian, you flat the 2nd, the 3rd, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. All right, that's a lot. You might be like, okay, that's great. So, like, why does that even matter? Well, let's listen. So I'm going to pop open Reaper so you can hear this. And I made a little melody, boom, here, that uses every scale degree in the key of C. Let's give it a listen. All right, cool. Well, now let's start with relative. So meaning we're going to keep all the notes. Everything's going to be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. But we're going to make this Dorian. So now I'm going to take this C, and now I want to make the tonic D. So I'm going to move this, everything up, this whole melody, up to D. But uh-oh, look, now this 3rd, right, doesn't belong in that key, and I can tell because it's sharp, and D Dorian doesn't have any sharps or flats. So I'm actually going to make this 3rd, I'm going to flatten it, because if you remember, in the Dorian mode, we flatten the 3rd. We also flatten the 7th, and so if we look at this, we're going to notice that the 7th, this top one, is also on a sharp note, so we flatten that too. Everything else, right, is on a natural note, so no accidentals. Let's hear what this sounds now. So this is Dorian. That's kind of cool, right? I'm going to pull this back to Ionian so you can hear it. Here we go. Let's hear it. This is Ionian. Go to Dorian. Oh, look at that. Okay, that's kind of cool. And then, so let's go to Phrygian. What happens if we move to Phrygian? So we're going to take everything here. And now Phrygian, we want E to be the tonic. It's currently D. So let's move everything up. Now the tonic is E. Oh, but you know what? In Phrygian, what do we have to do? Let's look. Phrygian, we have to flat the 2, the 3, the 6, the 7. All right, let's do that. So here's our 2. Drop it down. We'll make it flat. Here's our 3. Oops. Come on. Make it flat. We leave the 4 alone. We leave the 5 alone. Here's our 6. Make it flat. And here's our 7. Make that flat. Wow, now we're in Phrygian. And we know, in this case, because they're all sharing the same notes of C major. Let's hear what this sounds like. It's Phrygian, cool. Here's Dorian, sorry. Here's Ionian. Cool. So I actually did real quick over here. I already made this. Made everything. So here's Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian, and then back to Ionian again, so you can hear everything. So let's go through all these. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, back to Ionian. So like all of them have their own flavor. All of them sound a little bit different. Cool. So let's listen to these then. So we did the relative, right? So all of them share the same notes. Now let's do parallel. So as you can see, I took these same structures. This is Ionian, but the tonic now, every single one of them is C. So that's Ionian. And let's do, here's Dorian, right? You can see that this is still C. All these notes start on C. But you can see now the notes aren't the same, right? Now we have this E flat instead of E. And we have this B flat instead of B. And like, I think this one is Mixolydian, right? You have C, but Mixolydian flat's the 7th, so now you can hear there's that 7th. And I'm gonna put just a pedal note. So a pedal note is just like a repeating note in the bass line, generally in the bass line. So you can hear this harmonically and see how it sounds differently. So now we're in parallel modes. Again, same modal structure, but instead of everything moving to keep all the notes the same as Ionian, now the tonic's the same. Let's hear this. Dorian. Phrygian. Lydian. Mixolydian. Aeolian. Locrian. That's pretty wild, right? And you may have noticed like some of these sounded happier and sadder and more chaotic than others. Like this one sounded pretty happy. But like this one kind of sounded sad. And this one sounded like chaotic. So those are modes, right? That's modes. And you can really use them to amplify your melody. So if you take a melody and you mix them up and try different modes, you're gonna get some really wild qualities. So then finally, that leaves us with the question, well, what is a key? Well, basically keys aren't as strict as scales and modes, although these terms can be used interchangeably. I'm just gonna give you the technical definition. Scales and modes are specific to a set collection of notes. That's it. So like C major scale has C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Nothing else. No more nor no less. It has to have those notes. D Dorian has D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and D, right? It has to have those notes. G major. So G, or we'll do E minor, E Aeolian is E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and then back to E. It only has those. Those scales and those modes only have those notes. Keys, however, let you play notes that don't belong in a scale as long as the tonic remains the same. So you can play something, again, in E minor, and you may have something, instead of saying F sharp, you may dip your toe into F. Or you may try G sharp. But as long as everything kind of feels like it comes back to E, you're still playing in the key. So, yeah, so pretty much what I just said. So basically the way I like to think about it, scales and modes are a recipe from a cookbook. You follow the recipe exactly. Keys are more like how your grandparents cook. They throw a bunch of shit in the pot, it still tastes good. Now you know scales, you know modes, you know keys. So what I want you to do is take the melody that you hummed and pick 3 of them. And you should know the keys of this already, or the scales that they're in, because you did that in the last video. If you didn't, figure that out. And if you don't know how to, watch the last video. What I want you to do then is take that melody and do what I did in this video, rewrite them in all of the relative modes, and then rewrite them in all the parallel modes. So you should have 21 different melodies at the end of this, minimum. And then listen back to them and see how these modes change the flavor. You'll probably find something that's like, you might like better than what you originally wrote, or remind you of something that makes you feel a different way. So for instance, for me, when I wrote this little doodad, I really, really, really liked, like my favorite one was hearing this in D Dorian. So this is what I originally wrote. But I really like this. I think that sounds awesome. I also really like the Lydian version in its parallel mode. This. Like they're related, but the original and the Lydian and the parallel and the Dorian and the relative like give these really new, awesome flavors to them. And I think I'm probably going to use in my final piece. So do the same thing. Again, homework. Pick 3 of your favorite melodies, find the key of them if you haven't already, or find what scale they're in, then rewrite them in all the relative modes. So that's 7 for each, and then rewrite them all in their parallel modes. So that's 7 each again. And then listen to all of them and see which ones you like. As you can see, it doesn't really take all that long. So there you go. Now you know what scales, what modes are, what keys are, and how to use each of them to make your melodies really awesome. If you haven't already too, please like and subscribe to this channel. Again, I'm giving you a free music theory course that will take you from absolutely knowing nothing to like really knowing music theory to a collegiate level, and then being able to actually write and orchestrate a full piece. So it's free, dude. Like, just like and subscribe, tell your friends about it, and I greatly appreciate it. See you in the next lesson.